Today we'll be looking at our last set of notes for Unit 4, America Gets a New Deal, Unit 4, Notes number 7. Helping the American people. While working on bank and financial matters, the Roosevelt administration also implements programs to provide relief to farmers. The Agricultural Adjustment Act, AAA, sought to raise crop prices by lowering production. So basically, they're telling farmers to purposefully not plant so many crops. So that way, they're not flooding the market. The administration also established programs to provide relief through work projects and cash payments. The Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, put young men aged 18 to 25 to work, building roads, developing parks, planting trees, and flood control projects. Most of these young men would live on site of their projects, and they would be able to save their money, send money home to their families, and their food and boarding was included with their pay. The National Industrial Recovery Act, the NIRA, provided money to states to create jobs, chiefly in the construction of schools and community buildings. Here are a few propaganda posters of these New Deal projects. And remember, the goal of propaganda is to kind of educate the public, letting them know what these um, programs are all about, help creating support for these programs. Promoting fair practices. The NIRA also sought to promote industrial growth by establishing codes of fair practice for individual industries. It created the National Recovery Administration, the NRA, which set prices of many products and established standards. Lots of different businesses would participate. You would see an NRA poster in the window of businesses, whether it was a bakery, a restaurant, a hardware store. The goal was to promote recovery by interrupting the trend of wage cuts, falling prices, and layoffs. A number of New Deal programs were focused on housing and home mortgage problems. The Homeowners Loan Corporation, HOLC, provided government loans to homeowners who faced foreclosures because they could not meet their loan payments. So try to work with homeowners to make it so that they could make their payments, fix their rate so that they would avoid being kicked out of their homes. The Federal Emergency Relief Administration, the FERA, provided money to states to help furnish food and clothing to the unemployed, the aged, and the ill. So let's stop and think. How do these New Deal programs help out the American public? So they were all designed to provide direct relief to the public. So you had programs like the CCC, where it put people to work. You had programs like the NRA, which were helping businesses regulate prices, keeping competition fair. The Agricultural Act, helping out farmers. So they're trying to tap into a wide range of areas of our economy. And these are only just a sample of some of the New Deal programs. New Deal under attack. With the New Deal, FDR agreed to a policy of deficit spending with great reluctance. This means spending more money than the government receives in revenue. So a lot of those programs, the CCC, uh, public works projects, the government paid for it. They funded it. And so they were spending money that they did not have. But FDR saw deficit spending as a necessary evil to be used only at a time of great economic crisis. So that it needed to happen. We needed to put people to work. People needed money. The New Deal did not end the Depression, and opposition grew among some parts of the population. Critics of the New Deal. Liberal critics argued that the New Deal did not go far enough to help the poor or to reform the nation's economic system, whereas conservative critics argued that Roosevelt spent too much on direct relief and used the New Deal policies to control business and socialize the economy, feeling that the government was growing too big. The Supreme Court struck down the NIRA as being unconstitutional, saying that it gave the federal government powers that were not designated in the Constitution, and that the AAA struck it down on the grounds that states should regulate agriculture, not the federal government. The second New Deal. By 1935, the Roosevelt administration was looking for ways to build on the programs established during the 100 Days. The New Deal enjoyed widespread popularity, and FDR launched a second New Deal. The president called on Congress to provide more extensive relief for both farmers and workers. The Works Progress Administration, the WPA, set up a series of programs to help youths, professionals, and other workers. Between 1935 and 1943, it spent $11 billion to give jobs to more than 8 million workers. Most of them were unskilled. These workers built airports, constructed or repaired roads, and put up public buildings. So a lot of times, especially here in California, you can see buildings that were built during this time period, bridges, overpasses, and they'll be kind of stamped with, that it was built by the WPA, the PWA, and if it has a time of within the 1930s, you know that it's part of these New Deal programs. Social Security Act. The Social Security Act was passed in 1933. It had three major parts. Old age insurance for retirees 65 years and older, and that's what we most know it for, kind of this pension retirement system, unemployment compensation, and aid to families with dependent children and the disabled. So within the Social Security Act, you're also getting unemployment benefits and disability benefits. And so the way Social Security works is that there is taxes that are taken out of your paycheck once you become, an official worker in society, and that goes to fund Social Security to pay for Social Security for people over, I think to claim Social Security now you have to be over 65, unemployment, disability. And so this program would not be a total pension system because some workers don't qualify. Government workers usually have their own pension systems. Teachers, I think police officers do not qualify. Other specific professions don't because we don't pay into it, so we can't collect from it. We these other professions like teachers, we pay into a different pension system. So even though it wasn't a total pension system or complete welfare system, it did provide substantial benefits to millions of Americans. The impact of the New Deal. By 1937, the economy had improved enough to convince many Americans that the Depression was finally ending. Economic troubles still plagued the nation, but FDR faced pressure from Congress to scale back New Deal programs. The Roosevelt administration expanded the power of the federal government. New Deal legislation set standards for wages and hours, banned child labor, and ensured the right of workers to organize and bargain. New Deal policies established policies in the areas of banking and finance. Americans also benefited from New Deal efforts to protect the environment. It brought hope and gratitude from some people for the benefits and protections they received, but it also brought anger and criticism from those who felt it took more of their money. So how did the New Deal succeed? How did it fail? And so depending on who you ask, you'll have some people that feel that the New Deal was great. They weren't getting support from the previous president, and programs like the CCC, the WPA were helping them get back to work. And so they felt that any money the government was spending was necessary, it was needed. They viewed Roosevelt as a savior. But then on the flip side, many people just felt that the government was growing too large, taking too much control, intervening and regulating where they didn't need to. And so they didn't like the power that the federal government, the president, was kind of extending to itself. And it really did fundamentally change the role of the federal government and how we perceive what the government's duty to be. And so in some people's opinion, the New Deal overstretched itself, gave too much power to the federal government and the president. So again, they have point, counterpoint, two sides to every debate. So we're done with our notes. You want to go back, look at key terms. You want to go back and start studying for our short answer assessment.